I just finished a meeting with Simon, who is my partner in developing the Closing Curve, and super excited about where it's going. He is flying back to England to meet with the developers and get this thing knocked out, because it's time to get people utilizing this idea. So how this whole thing came about, I started out as a dancer when I was 5 years old, and that was my main career until I was about 27 years old. I'm 42 now. And then I shifted out into real estate. Got into real estate after the birth of my child because I felt like I needed to have like a real job, and it's a love-hate relationship with real estate, because I love helping people, but I've always just found the process really frustrating because I didn't always know what was going on. I always want to know what's going on, how can I expedite, how can I help move the ball down the field. And there's so many moving parts in real estate, with agents, buyer, seller, attorneys, home inspectors, lenders, banks, whatever. I always felt really frustrated with it. So got out of real estate for a while. I was doing building my fitness business. Then I ended up getting divorced and ended up back in performing at Legends in Concert, which is where I met Laura Castleman, who's the CEO of JV Zoo. I met her years ago. She and I were performing together. She was on that contract for a really short period of time, but we've always been friends. So she knew that, she knows that Legends in Concert, the schedule can be really rigorous. And knowing that I have a child, at one point she approached me to start working for JV Zoo in a small capacity, just because she knows what kind of work ethic I have. And I was actually her personal trainer for a while I had my personal training business, and we spent a lot of time together bouncing ideas off each other about JV Zoo and about, when she first shifted into being CEO and all of that stuff. So that's how I know Laura. So Laura knew that I'm pretty smart. She knows the work ethic of dancers. We're just very driven people. And she got me involved in JV Zoo. So then for the last year, I've been working for JV Zoo and trying to figure out, how can I integrate real estate and JV Zoo? Because I ultimately left performing to work for JV Zoo, and then still have been in real estate. And then one day, I was in the office really early talking with Chad about a real estate transaction he was involved in. He was selling something, and he was really frustrated because he didn't feel like he knew what was going on with the transaction as the buyer. And I was standing there, and I remember Adam was in the office, and I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if there was something that would close the communication gap, so that you would know what's going on, so things wouldn't happen like the attorneys didn't inform him that the closing date was not today, and he drove all the way over to the office and they were like, it's not today. So there's obviously, communication gaps like that. So we just thought, what if there was something that could help close the communication loop between buyers and sellers and agents and all the people involved in a transaction? So we started brainstorming it. And then shortly thereafter, we went to TNC in California. And I remember just waking up at 3 a.m, with the time difference and everything, and being like, the Closing Curve, that's it. And so ever since that day, I have been working. I work for JV Zoo. It's very rigorous. We're a small team with a very large company. I also work full-time real estate, so my phone is always ringing. And so I already worked, 5 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night. So now I have to find other hours in the day to work on developing this Closing Curve. If you told me a year ago that I would be developing software, I would tell you, you are nuts. I knew zero about the software industry in general, aside from things that I use personally, until I started working for JV Zoo. since, when I started working full time for them. For the first few months, it felt literally like, and this is Chad Castleman's quote, drinking from the waterfall. Like, there was so much information that I was taking in at one time about the affiliate marketing industry, about the software industry in general, about how computer science works, etc. So anyway, I literally am a human that has gone from zero knowledge about how software works to I figured out how to draw my own wireframe for my own software in the space of literally like one day. Simon said, okay, you need to start wireframing. And I was like, okay, had no idea what he was talking about. Googled it. I had no idea what that was. And now I have, a few books full of different versions of the wireframe of the closing curve. So anyway, going back to the whole reason that it exists. Reason that I am creating the closing curve is for people like my friend Brenda. I have her house listed for sale. She just bought another house. And in the process of the last closing, which was with a mutual friend of the family that she did that closing, she was literally in tears because she didn't really know what was going on. The closing was scheduled. Somebody told her from her attorney's office that the closing was happening. She showed up at the office, and then the attorney was like, the closing's not today. And it threw everything off, and that was just one example of somebody that gets confused in the closing process. It's so confusing. There's so many moving parts. There's so many players in the game. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. And especially, it becomes not fun anymore. Like, think about this. You're a home buyer. You've been searching on Zillow for a while. You found what you think to be the perfect home, and then your realtor shows you another home, and you find the perfect home. You put in the offer. Well, then what? Then it becomes a big confusing mess, and it's stressful, and you don't know what's going on, and you hope that it happens, and you hear all these horror stories, and you just never know what the hell is going on. Well, the closing curve is there to make it simpler for you, to make it fun for you, so that you can just focus on how excited you are about moving into your new home. Because it should be fun. You should understand. You should feel empowered. And that's what the closing curve will do for you.